Let's make something beautiful today. If you're like me, you have seen this style of earring just about everywhere in all the jewelry circles, on social media. A simple horseshoe frame that has beads and different elements hanging from it, and I thought that I would take my own stab at it, come up with a unique design that you and I can work on together. It'll be easy, it'll be fun, beginner friendly. We're going to get our hammers out, we're going to texturize. We're also going to be revisiting an element from a previous video. We did, I don't know, it was a couple weeks ago, we did earrings that were infinities inside of infinities. So I broke it down into a single element to tie this all together as a connector, added a simple freshwater pearl, doubled up on this horseshoe frame, popped on an ear wire, and bam. So I think this is really lovely. And so if you're looking for this style of earring and you don't know what to do, let's make this together. Let me show you what you're going to need. So you'll need a lot of your simple basics. You know that I use 6-stepped bail pliers just about for everything. I can't think of a single video that I haven't used these. So these are my favorite. I've got a nice pair of flat nose cutters and some tweezer nose, of course. I've got a selection of my hammers. This is one of my new acquisitions from my father-in-law and his great uncle. Wonderful little new hammer. Of course, you're going to need a nylon hammer, a ring mandrel, or something that is going to form these horseshoes. And then, of course, if you've got hammers, you need a block. I also used something that a lot of jewelry makers use in one way or another, your faithful Sharpie marker that's going to form this inner shape. And I'll explain why I use that and not something else. And we've got a handy file to keep our edges nice and clean. Let's go over the wires that we're going to be using. 20 gauge, of course, is our ear wire. We're going to use 18 gauge for this inner horseshoe and the infinity connector. And then I've got my handy dandy, which I'm running low in. Our 16 gauge is going to make the very first outer horseshoe shape. And we're going to work on finishing up this pair that I started. And I've got one more of this. It's a rondelle. This is probably a 4x6 millimeter. Something around that. Whatever is going to fit into your little horseshoe shape, but not, you know, hang out of it. That's what you're looking for. So you have a little flexibility on that. You just try different things and see what works for your little horseshoe shape. So that's about it. Let's get started. We're going to start with this outer loop, and that calls for 16 gauge. We'll need 3 1/4 inches of the 16 gauge wire. Make sure your ends are flush. I didn't mention a ruler, but I guess that goes without saying that you're going to need that to do some measuring of your wire. The outer horseshoe is just about 1 inch in diameter, and what I used to get that shape was the size 15 on a ring mandrel. That gave me that size. So you just take your 3 1/4 piece of 16 gauge, find a rough middle, and then just press that around. Nothing too fancy, until the ends kind of come together. Simple like that. When I first started doing these, I was hammering the wire on the ring mandrel, and then after a while I realized, why am I doing that? Because I'm going to be doing all this hammering on the block, which is going to strengthen. So don't worry about hammering right on the ring mandrel, which is kind of tricky and cumbersome and just straight up irritating sometimes. So we're not going to do that. We'll use this in just a second. We're going to put our loops, the loops on the end of our horseshoe shape, on first. You can see my coffee cup ring. That's embarrassing. Ugh, gosh, it's filthy. I think I need to scrub that. What do you think? Oh, look, I just turned it over thinking I got one on that side too. Oh my goodness. I've got my 6-stepped bail making pliers, which we're just going to call bail pliers. And I'm going for the smallest one on my pliers is 2 millimeters. We want this loop to be as as small as we can get it. And you're asking, well, just use your round nose pliers and use the tip of it. I don't care for that. I like this box joint on these pliers, which seems to be a little stronger when I'm trying to roll back 16 gauge. Now, if it was a lighter gauge, say 20 or maybe even 18, just simple round nose pliers would work, but I need just a little bit more with the 16 gauge to get it to roll back without slipping out. Or have you ever seen when the bales will wiggle back and forth? Maybe I just got junk. But I'm using this. If you want to use your round nose pliers on the end, then go ahead and do that. But let's go through how I do it with bale pliers, and then I'll show you how I get it even smaller. I've got it right on the end of the wire, and we're going to roll back. And we'll put one on the other side. Someone commented the other week that they would appreciate if we didn't have the little funnies in the middle of the tutorial or the bloopers at the end. Nah, we need to laugh. We need to have fun. If you can't handle laughing and bloopers and goofiness, then these videos are not for you, because I am a funny, goofy, silly, and that's just the way it is.
I can't help it.
We are the wonky wire workers. Now these loops are pretty small. I would like them just slightly smaller so they're not competing so much with the rest of the design. So I slipped in I need different cutters. I slipped in my flush cutters, and I'm just going to take off maybe 1 millimeter or 2 on the end of this loop, making sure that it's flush when I slip my pliers in there. Now, you don't need to do this if you're just using you've got a good pair of round nose pliers, and you can get a nice small loop. But what do you do if you don't have that? That's what you can do. Just trim off a little bit, and then continue to press in those loops just to get a smaller, a little more discreet little loop on that. And that will be enough to handle our jump rings as well. We've got 1 loop. Let's move to the inner loop. We're going to pick up our 18 gauge for this one. You can do 16 gauge for this one as well. I wanted a variation in that width, in that weight. So if you want to keep it simple, just use 16 gauge all around. But I was trying to go for a different element, different weights in the wire. And for this 18 gauge, forming the inner loop, we're going to need 2 inches. Now this is where I used the Sharpie. I used my bale pliers, the 9 millimeter. I used so many different things to try to find a roundness that sat within this larger horseshoe shape nicely. It wasn't too long, it wasn't too fat. This dimension, let me see what it is. I gotta find my calipers. What is the width of a Sharpie? Let's find out. This says it's about 14 millimeters. So something like that. Now we know. It was a perfect width for this. And I'm doing the same thing we did with the outer loop. We're going to roughly find the middle, press around that marker, and bring the ends around so that they cross just a little bit. And what that is doing is creating more roundness through the length of the wire, not just through the body, but a lot through the length of the wire, the whole way around. Really going to make a cute little round shape. Same thing, 2 millimeters on our bale pliers, and we're going to make a little loop, or you can use your round nose right on the end and to make a nice small loop. Flip that over and put a matching loop on the other side. And you will have a little ditty like that. And very subtly, I can do the same thing that we did with the outer one. I'm just going to take off about 1 millimeter, just to make it a little more discreet. Now we can start to see how this is going to sit together. As you move along, you will see that you'll need to adjust kind of how the openings are, but for now, you start to get an idea of how this is going to sit in the middle. There's a little, can you even see that? I know you can. There's the tiniest corner right there. I'm gonna have to round that out. Don't move, if you see anything, do not move along until you fix it. Let me take a moment to fix this. Better. Had to put it on the ring mandrel anyway, but that is that option. If you see any kind of wonkiness in your frames, get it right before you move on, especially into the hammering, because if you start hammering on anything that's not quite right, you're going to see that wonkiness in there. We're going to move through both sides of this hammer. We're going to hammer flat, and then we're going to add texturizing. Once you have it the kind of flattened out as you would like, flip over and add texturizing. One thing I like to do is also hit the edge. It adds such a nice sparkle right on the edge, so not just always straight down on it. Come to the side and hit the edges of your flattened wire. My daughter's upstairs sleeping. I just know she's loving this. But I still have this one to do. I'm gonna do it real quick, okay? All right, now that that is done, I would have spent some more time on that, but I know I heard her go, there's something upstairs because I was hammering. So I would spend a little more time on that, gets a little more reflection, and come even on the inside rim and hammer that edge, just to give it even more sparkle. Back with our 18 gauge, we're gonna pull out 3 inches for the infinity connector. Back with bail pliers, back with the 2 millimeter. We're going to come right on the end of this 3 inches of 18 gauge, and we're going to do a nice simple roll back. I'm going to flip this over so that the loop is in my left hand and it's kind of facing towards me. I'm going to move to this 4 millimeter, 2, 3, and 4. And this is going to make the larger infinity shape. Now I'm not going to take this right up against our original loop. You're going to pull it out just a little bit to leave a channel for this wire to come back around and slip through there. So now that you've got it pretty level, everything looks good. Before you press, make sure it's nice and level. And then just bring that around. You can turn it while it's on there so you can keep pressing. You run out of room. Oh my gosh. Then we'll have this going on. I like to turn it over before I do the next part so that the smaller loop and arm is on top. Back in the pliers like this, using that 4 millimeter. We're going to make another one of these larger loops to come back, go around this bail, and slide down through this channel here. You can turn it a little bit to keep it moving on around. And the reason I turned it over is because I want both of these, the arms with the small loop, sitting together on the same side of this connector, so that they're sitting down next to each other. And if you need to really, really crank it in there, setting them in there nice and tight, you can do that as well. Maybe some chain nose pliers to set them down next to each other. Any kind of adjustment you need to make to get them to sit nicely together. Just take that time to do that. You won't regret it. I'm going to trim this excess to 1 centimeter. Just taking the joint here, this intersection on the edge of my ruler, and trimming to 1 centimeter. I find that 1 centimeter goes with the 2mm bail really well for just a nice finish. You don't have to worry about trimming or is this going to work. I just find that those two things go together very well. And we're going to just put that matching small loop on the other side. The other thing to remember is this one is coming around and curling that way. This one's going to come and swirl the other way. We want that balance. Just keep gently turning that, because it's going to be hard to get your pliers in there until that wire comes around and meets that intersection. Do you see how the 1 centimeter just goes with the 2mm bail? It just does. I'm just going to make sure it's not a complete flat element, so I just want to make sure that it's sitting relatively straight and everything is lined up. Now, an option that you can do, I'm not going to do that because I already told you my daughter is complaining that I'm doing a lot of hammering. You could sit this right on the edge of your block and hammer that out a little bit. Do a little matching texturizing if you want to. Totally optional. I love options. I'm going to leave it like this. Now it is time to put it all together. But before we do that, we want to see how this is all sitting. Let me see if I can show you. If you look on this one, the loops of the inner horseshoe kind of basically are touching the outer one. And the infinity connection is almost touching the outer horseshoe loops. So that's what I'm looking for here. Do we need to make any adjustments to how things are sitting? And I think I will. I'm either going to have to bring in this horseshoe just a little bit. Something I see, if you look at this, you can tell like this lower loop is like, it's like swinging over to the right. So what I need to do is put that back on my pliers and just swing it over to the left a little bit more. Did that help at all? Slightly. Very, very, goodness, very slightly it helped. I think that was a little better. I think what I'll do, and it's going to solve both problems, it's not really a problem, but it's going to solve most of the issues, is I'm just going to bring in this outer horseshoe just tiny, tiny bit. So that now the inner horseshoe is sitting, they're touching almost, and it's closer to this little infinity connector. And the jump rings won't have to work as hard. And you can use tinier ones. I did go ahead and make some. These were made using my 2mm bail, and then I have upgraded. Let me just show you. If you need to do some sawing, you need these nano blades. I got these from Pepe Tools. Fantastic. It really was a difference. I noticed it right away. And the other thing I got was blade butter. Before I was just using, I had some beeswax, or I had, it might have not been beeswax. I think it was just wax. Then I tried some olive oil, and this made the difference. It really did. And the nano saw blade. So if you were trying to do some sawing, if you're trying to make your own jump rings or whatnot, upgrade to the nano blades. I'm telling you what, they're wonderful. Now, it will not solve the problem of then you having to attach the jump rings, which I lost it a couple times. I'm bound and determined not to throw anything today. Now, take your open jump rings and attach everything. This is a very tight area. So just to get it going and connected, you saw what I did. I just pressed against my fingernail. Man, if you've got acrylic nails, I bet you that is amazing for things like that. And just press that together. At times I do bring in, some other chain nose pliers to close that. It just depends on how I've managed to hold the wires or how I've got the jump ring going through. Depends on whether or not I choose to use another plier or not. So you use what you got. You use what's working in the moment. I mean, traditional is you use 2 pliers to open and close. Do what works. I'm a kind of a rule breaker when it comes to things like that. Just if it works, I don't care. Because these jump rings made with the 2mm bail are quite small and they can be quite frustrating, like it just did, feel free to make bigger jump rings or use bigger jump rings. You do not have to suffer these tiny little jump rings. And also, if you don't want to use jump rings, you want even a cleaner look, you can get out your 24, 26 gauge wire and then wrap them together. I love wraps. They are just so beautiful. So that's an option as well. I go back and forth depending on what mood I'm in. So that's what we've got going on so far with the jump rings. You see how it sits nice and closely together, and the jump rings were just enough to hold that together. And one other note when you're hammering, do not hammer your loops, because that will make them get wider, or the wire will, from being like this, now it's like this wide, the jump rings won't work. So you don't want to hammer your loops. Trust me, I know. Now we just need to attach our little infinity, put a little bead on there and an ear wire, and we're done. We're going to attach these small loops on the side, are going to come and attach to the outer horseshoe. That's not going to work when you don't have it open, Carrie. Jeez Louise. And I also like to have this crossover of the 2 parallel wires, so you don't have that on the other side. It's just singular. I like the side that it's got the 2 going parallel. And now we've got everything attached. What you're going to want to do, it's going to be hard to show you because I'm kind of flat, but you're going to want to hang it. You're going to want to let it dangle and see if anything needs to be adjusted. It's hard for you to tell. You can't tell at all. But I'm seeing that this is hanging very nicely. So we are good to go. I'm pretty sure with that bead I used 20 gauge. This is a nice It's a nice little size hole on these beads. So I went with 20 gauge. I always try to use the largest gauge that I can, just for structure and strength. And just cut whatever you think you're gonna need to make this little bead wrap. Let's see if I can do 1.5 inches. I don't think that's 1.5 inches. Just over. I knew it was a little bit too big. Now with this one, I did my simple bend it backwards and I kind of make a little head pin, but for this one, I went a little extra. My daughter's gonna love this, and hammered out the end. Let's see if our bead stops on there. That's just enough to hold it on there. But before I move on, I just want to file these ends because they can be sharp. I'm going to slip that on there, let that fall down. Now for this, I did use some round nose pliers. These are fine for lighter gauge. I just don't, when I'm using the 16 gauge and stuff, I don't like them. And we're going to do this little loop at the top. Let's bend back first. So we've got it like this. Press over your pliers. Turn your pliers. We've got it like that. And then we're going to bring this tail around like that. But we're not going to close it off yet. I'm going to make sure I lift this up just a little bit more so I have a little more opening in there. And then the bead attaches to the lower part of this infinity. And then once you get it on there, with chain nose pliers, close that loop closed. Close it closed. Wow. Revolutionary, Carrie. Take that tail, and this is up to you. You can put as many little wraps in there as you want. It is a little fiddly, but can be done. Just be patient and go slow. I have to figure out where my front is before I cut that off. Oh, I'm already going to the back. So perfect, perfect. And then I can just trim that off. Making sure that my end is flush. And then tuck that in. Come on. Ooh, so cute. Now we just need some ear wires for these adorable earrings. 20 gauge again. Now you all have convinced me to do two ear wires at once. But the one thing I did not like doing is when you cut the full length and you bend it in half. No, I'd rather just cut 2 equal lengths and go from there. Do you know what I'm saying? Let me guess again. I usually go almost 2 inches. Let's see what that is. Now that is spot on. That is exactly what I wanted. Just under 2 inches at that 1 7/8 mark. Come on, I'm on it today. Haven't thrown anything yet either.
Not yet, anyway.
Make sure that end is flush. Make the second cut and go. I just prefer, I did listen, you did convince me, thank you so much, to do them at one time. Back with my trusty bail pliers and the 2 millimeter. We're going to put that little loop right on the end. roll back. And you got them like that. I have been using the 9mm as of late to do the body of the ear wire, the part that sits in your earlobe. Make sure this is nice and level before I press. And then just give a little bend back. One thing you also want to do, always want to do this with your ear wires, is first really give it a good hammering with your nylon hammer. And for a little extra feature, you can flatten out the top loop. And all you have to do is turn that loop to the side. Make sure you have your earring going the right direction. You would not believe how many times I get that wrong. Close up that loop just by turning in. Really cute, and I think it's a unique twist on what I have been seeing everywhere. This wonderful, simple, horseshoe-shaped chandelier earring that we made our own today, and I hope you make this and I hope you have fun doing that. Make sure you post it to the community on the YouTube channel. I would love to see your work. I just love it. But if you're on Instagram or TikTok, Facebook, show it to me there too. I'm always on those, posting things and sharing things, so I'd love to hear from you. Of course, leave your comment down below. Tell me what bead that you're going to put in here and maybe how you're going to put your own spin on it. Well, thank you for joining me today. I really needed this. As you knew, I missed you last week because it was my 25th wedding anniversary, but also we had a very close family friend pass away. So it's been a really weird mix of joy and sadness all in the same week. So my mind has kind of been all over the place, and it is really nice to come back and put my hands to work and make something, and especially to spend it with you. It really has been a balm to my spirit this morning, and I so look forward to being here with you next week. I hope your week is wonderful. You make something beautiful. Let's get together next week for Tutorial Tuesday. The one I want? That's not the one I want. Oh my, stay still. Oh my goodness. I'm telling you what. I'm about ready to, it's gonna be fine. It will be fine. Not lose my mind. Not throw anything today. Not throw anything today. Precious. What have I done? What have I done? Precious, come on. Freaking loud. Just don't say that. I can do this. I can do it. I can do it. Ay, ay, ay. I'm rambling, rambling. Okay.